Hello, everybody, and welcome back to F1 TS Hub. We are here for another late talk show, episode 5. And when I say we, of course, Jono is alongside me in the box tonight. And we're going to be dissecting the three tiers, round 3 in China. Jono, it was a good one, entertaining night across all three tiers.
Yeah, definitely. Entertaining races throughout once again. I caught up on all the action earlier today and plenty to talk about.
It definitely is. And interestingly, a bit different in the steward's office compared to the week before. It's quite quiet, I see.
Yeah, definitely. I think we've got 2 incidents in there so far. Obviously, drivers got till midnight tonight to report anything. But yeah, there was a few incidents and collisions in the races, but so far not too many of those brought to the stewards. I think quite a few of them are probably being put down to hard racing and racing incidents.
And we saw our first full safety car in the Prestige tier late on, which obviously we'll talk about in a bit. But we said last week on the talk show, didn't we, that it is possible for there to be a safety car around China, and we were finally treated, which really spiced up the finish of that one.
Yeah, gave us some explosive final laps. And I'm sure Julian's heart was in his mouth slightly when the saw the safety car called after he had that big lead. But yeah, it delivered some exciting last couple of laps, that's for sure.
Definitely did, and obviously you commented on the pinnacle tier with Kieran, and Reflo, again, we'll go in more detail, but Reflo's deadlock on the wins was finally upset by the Ferraris. They threatened in Bahrain, they delivered in China.
They did. They managed to pull it off, and well deserved for Sam as well. He's been knocking on the door for a while, and yeah, Ferrari have got the victory there and set us up for great battles, championship and constructors, I think.
Awesome. All right, John, let's head over to the podium tier. Obviously, that is our 7 p.m. tier. Races every Friday night with myself and Sean commentating on that one. It wasn't the most exciting out of what we've seen so far this season, but qualifying was quite interesting. Drivers obviously had to get out quick because the rain was on its way, and it meant that, no one could really improve. And it was a Ferrari 1-2. But talk to me about in qualifying, how difficult is it? Not only to nail your lap, but particularly when you know the rain's coming and you can't just dive in and get a new set of tires.
Yeah, it definitely adds to the pressure, doesn't it? You know you've got to deliver, and often then you're pushing a bit too hard a bit early on, and the mistakes come, and yeah, it just makes the session even more challenging than normal. Even 18 minutes puts you under a fair bit of pressure, but when you know you've got perhaps the weather closing in as well, and the number of laps are going to be limited, it just piles on the pressure. And some delivered, obviously, the Ferraris on the front row, but maybe others didn't quite get as much as they possibly could out of it.
Yeah, definitely, and obviously drivers right mixed up strategy. Tires seem to dominate across all three tiers. I feel like it was quite an interesting how the strategies played out. Some started on mediums, some started on softs. Those who started on ultras had to pit early and two stop. Long pit lane here in China, and it caught our good friend Ermi out, who binned it in the race.
Yeah, he did binned it on the entrance to the pits. I think it was in the pit or just before the pit lane itself. And yeah, always brings back memories of course, Lewis Hamilton burying it in the gravel back in his McLaren days. So yeah, Ermi having a good pace in qualifying once again, putting it on the front row. But at the moment, he's just not able to deliver in the races.
Alrighty, but qualifying, Ferrari 1-2, Ermi under half a tenth off pole. We see every week his time improving, the Triple World Champion. He's the most successful driver. He started on the front row again here, but there's no point in keep improving that lap time if you can't finish a race.
Yeah, it's all about tire management, I think, for Ermi, and especially with dealing with the tires when you have a spin or a slide and managing those tire temperatures. You see his set his qualifying time on the ultra soft as well, and I think in China and in Bahrain we've seen that the softest compounded tire is just an awful race tire, to be honest. It just isn't durable at all, and drivers are much favouring the softs or the mediums. So I think as he was dealing with tire struggles anyway, perhaps being on the ultra soft tire wasn't ideal for him.
Yeah, definitely. And off the start, it was a messy one straight away for Jonas. Led them away, but he straight away dropped down the order. But before that, the lights went out. Jamie got a bit trigger happy, didn't he?
He did jump start and yeah, drive through straight away. And yeah, from third place, obviously it was disaster for him. And it's easily done. You know, you think, well, just wait for the lights to go green, but you have that long pause sometimes, and you're just anticipating it so much. And yeah, you can just release it that moment too soon, and the damage is done. Unfortunately, the penalty doesn't really fit the crime. But for Jamie, that was his hopes perhaps of a win gone there straight away.
Yeah, definitely. So the ultra soft runner of Jamie and Danestar up to second almost immediately on lap one, challenging for the lead. You felt as soon as that was happening that it could be quite straightforward for Danestar once he got ahead to manage the gap. He started on those hard medium tires, so it was clear one stop for him. He had the pace, and the incident with Jonas. What do you make of it? Obviously, it hasn't been reported to the steward's office, which quite surprised me because it ended Jonas's race. If we
Yeah,
take a look at it, let's find it on the stream. Just seeing Ermi spin there in the early lap. So it's on lap 4. And it's going to be just about 37 minutes, just after 37 minutes, John. They're coming through the middle sector
yeah,
now.
I see it. Yeah.
It's after the double
Um,
left-hander on the exit, isn't it?
It is. It looks like, Deinster gets a tighter line through the corner. He's on the inside of Jonas, and there is slight contact with the rear left by the look of it of Jonas's car. I think on the stream at the time, Sean thought maybe Jonas lost the rear of the car a little bit as well, which caused Deinster just to run into the back as he was caught out with the speed difference. Looking at it now, it's really difficult to tell from the camera perspective we've got. But it does look like there was slight contact, and it was enough with the lock that Jonas had on the car to send the car around into the wall. But yeah, it's not in the steward's office as of yet, so perhaps the drivers do agree and have put it down to racing incident.
Alrighty, and then as the race went on, Jamie obviously served his drive-through penalty. Liam finally got some luck here. I predicted him to win on the talk show. I didn't quite get it right, but obviously recovering from two poor results, being very unlucky in the early parts. The first half of the race was good racing as well, Jono. But then as the race settled in, we didn't really get to see too much. A dive bomb by Jamie into turn 3 on Stevie sent him spinning round. Jamie said it was cold tires. How difficult is it to drive? Everyone's saying on these medium tires, they're so hard to warm up.
Yeah, it does seem like they're really, really hard to warm up. They're obviously durable. You can go a long way on them, and you can make a good race strategy out of them. But you have got to be just super careful on them, I think, for the first couple of laps, and careful on the throttle and on the brakes as well. Once you've bought them in, you can run really consistently for a long time, but you have got to be careful over those first couple of laps. It can easily catch you out.
And interesting strategy for Jorit. He did something completely different to the rest of the field. He did softs to ultra softs, which he was running in top 5. Just dropped him out of contention. And he was losing so much time. He ran that strategy in the official practice session on Thursday as well, but it wasn't quick. I don't know why. Why do you think he didn't put the mediums on and bail early?
Yeah, honestly, I don't know. I don't know what the idea behind the strategy was. As we said, the Ultrasoft just wasn't a race tire. It just wouldn't. It was only quick for a couple of laps, fell off, and obviously with a long pit lane here at China, you just lose too much time, and the strategy just didn't work out for him. He obviously thought it was the way to go from practice, but didn't work for him at all.
Alrighty, driver of the day votes on Twitter at the moment. Liam in second, Nick in third on the podium. Rex, his best result at F1 TS, held from 14th on the grid to 4th. What do you make of his performance?
Yeah, great drive, wasn't it, to get up all those positions, and he'll be delighted with the points, I think, and I think you can build from there. I think we'll see him battling, towards the top half of the field now for the rest of the season.
Definitely, and of course, John, if we head right to the beginning of the stream, um, we had a lap of honor for our one of our racers in this tier, Gizmo of the Force India team. I don't know if you watched it or not. How moving did you find it to watch all the drivers head out and complete a lap of honor to just show their support for one of their fellow drivers?
Yeah, that's what it's all about. It was great support, and the lap was perfectly observed. by everybody. And I think everybody was moved by it. There was obviously silence on the stream at the time as well. And yeah, it's just a nice touch and something we'd like to do here at F1TS Hub during tough times for somebody in the league. And yeah, we're all thinking of Gizmo obviously at the moment. And yeah, it was just nice to see, and hopefully he gets to catch it as well, and helps him feel a little bit better as well.
Awesome stuff. All right, let's move swiftly on to the pinnacle tier. Intermediate weather conditions around China. Still close. This is third week in a row that, like the top 10 have been separated by a second or less. So this tier, the smallest of mistakes, are really costly.
Yeah, they are, and I think there was a 3 second gap or so earlier on in the session, and we said this is going to close down massively towards the end, and as you say, by the end of the session, everybody really really close together. So everyone obviously finding the limits pretty well by the end, and really close grid as always. Like you say, there's so little to choose between these drivers. They've got to get all they can out of it, and yeah, being the wet conditions obviously spiced things up a little bit more, and we just didn't know who was going to end up where until the final minutes of the session.
Yeah, definitely. And obviously, Reflo taking pole position just ahead of two Ferraris. But it strikes me as this could be a season-long battle between these two Mercedes and Ferrari drivers.
Yeah, it looks absolutely set that way. There's been very, very little between them. And it's going to go that way all along. I'm absolutely sure the Ferrari boys seem to be working really well as a team at the moment. So maybe that will play in their favour in the constructors at least. But in the drivers, it's going to flow either way between those teams, I think, all the way through.
And off the start, Reflo not nailing his start and Sam jumping into the lead. And he was able to dictate the race really from there, wasn't he? And important for the Ferraris as well to clear the traffic the way they did.
Yeah, Sam in particular drove a great race, but the Ferraris in general, yeah. Once Sam got off the start and got into P1, didn't look back really, did he? Just drove faultless on what we saw on the stream at least, and nailed the strategy as well. And Reflow just didn't quite have the answer. We were thinking all race long, perhaps Reflow's just managing the tyres, managing the fuel or whatever. He's got it all figured out, but it looks like he just didn't quite have the pace that the Ferrari of Sam did.
Yeah, and as we go to lap 3, the two Red Bulls fought very hard against each other. I presume they weren't communicating on headset, but they were banging wheels, cutting each other off, pushing each other wide. They were going no holds barred.
Yeah, it was an amazing battle to watch. They were just going absolutely all out, like you say. Lots of wheel banging, very little space given, just about enough, and they were just about getting away with it. But yeah, definitely the opposite there. We're thinking about Ferrari probably working well as a team. I think Red Bull, there was no team orders whatsoever, and they were just absolutely going all out for position. But it was allowing other cars to close up behind as well, and we saw some pretty epic battles there. For the first part of the race, we didn't know where to look.
Yeah, it was that battle from about sixth downwards to about 12th. If you make one mistake or you get pushed wide, being overtaken, you'd suddenly lose 4 or 5 positions in the space of 2 corners, and you'd be dropping from somewhere like 8th to 12th.
Yeah, that's what we're seeing quite a bit. You go for one move, it doesn't quite work out, you run a bit wide or get pushed out, and then boom, you've lost 3 positions and you've got to try and fight your way back through again. It was so close between all the drivers, and it was pretty fair for the most part as well. And yeah, there was just literally 3 or 4 battles constantly going on, and it was just pretty awesome to watch. Definitely worth if you haven't seen that stream yet, go back and check it out.
Matt, your daddy, obviously was in 5th place when he disconnected. He was running a really good race, probably his best race at F1, one of his best races at F1 TS Hub that, I've seen him do, really managing the tyres, and just that disconnection, he wasn't able to get back in, race over.
Yeah, that's it. What can you do? It's just one of those things. Your connection lets you down, it lets you down, and we're always saying that he looks quick and that his time will come, but it just didn't happen again because of connection issues, which nothing you can really do about that, unfortunately.
Fourth on his last stint, his pace really seemed to drop off compared to the other 2 Ferraris and his teammate on those medium tires he was on for his second stop. And then eventually Heskey time overtook him. White Fountain got past him. What do you think happened to? Do you think he just overdrove in the opening stint, or that Mercedes just wasn't comfortable on those tires, perhaps?
Yeah, I'm not really sure. He seemed to have pretty good pace in the first stint. and looked to be setting up the race well for the second half. But after the pit stops, he just struggled. He just fell back from the others, and and fell into the clutches, as you say, of the Red Bull as well. Perhaps perhaps he overdrove the tyres early on and then struggled for grip towards the end. Not really sure, but the pace definitely fell away quite a bit once he switched compound.
Alrighty, so finishing results for round 3 is finally Sam gets his first official race win at F1 TS Hub in a full tier and grid, and he must be really happy with that, beating Reflow. He had the answer to him at any point, didn't he?
Yeah, he absolutely had it covered. There was no luck involved or anything like that. He just had the pace to win the race. Obviously, Reflow running it, still only a couple of seconds back come the end. So Sam had to drive pretty much perfectly throughout, and he managed to do that. And we sort of kept thinking, will it work out for Sam? When will the win come? And he's got it, and he's got it on round 3 as well. So that will give him plenty of confidence, I think, moving forward. And obviously, stop Reflow building an early lead in the championship.
Heskey Time having a good result, and White Fountain his best result as well, from 10th on the grid to 5th position. It was an exciting race all the way through, but we will move on to the prestige tier because, Jono, again, it was some intermediate conditions in qualifying, so the rain making an appearance in all 3 qualifying sessions, interestingly enough. And Julian knocked Blizzard off the top spot, and he actually himself had a few tenths of a gap.
Yeah, he did. 3/10 of a gap back to the rest who were all really, really close. Blizzard putting behind him the disappointment of the previous week, obviously, and sticking it on pole.
Alrighty, so let's head over to the race start. And as they get away off the line, Julian nails it. So he kind of, from that moment, it was almost his race to lose. Done the job in qualifying, nailed the start, and he was on the right strategy, which, interestingly enough, was almost the entire field started on those softs. No one started on ultras, and only 3 of them started on mediums.
Yeah, absolutely. Soft was the strategy to go for. But Julian's launch as well, he was 1.3 seconds clear by turn 1, which is pretty nuts. So he just outlaunched the others absolutely comfortably. And under control from the get-go, really.
A few questions on the stream, Jono. Obviously, you can't reveal yet because the stewards' office is still open. Results will be out Tuesday. But what did you make of, as a commentator, what did you make of the incident between Lawrence and Pepsi Gamer? I think it was on the last corner, was it? If I'm correct.
Yeah, I believe it was. I've only had a bit of a look at it so far. I know it's in the steward's office to be reviewed. I had a bit of a quick look at it earlier on today, but obviously, the stewards will have to look over it and see whether any further action could be taken. I know they're also waiting for Pepsi Gamer to respond at the moment, just to get his view on the incident as well before any decision is taken. Obviously, results up Tuesday as usual.
Alrighty, and obviously in the back to the prestige tier, we can see some interesting drivers here. So Julian got away. Suzeya, he was very aggressive in his braking when he was overtaking all throughout the race. But his race came to an end in the midway point with himself, Odems, and Blizzard, I believe, all going 3 wide along the pit straight. What did you make of that one?
Yeah, I think it was probably, again, just about a racing incident. I think Blizzard was squeezing slightly, perhaps on the right-hand side towards the middle, and then you had Odems obviously on the left-hand side. And I think Souza was just in the middle, perhaps feared that Blizzard was going to come across and come into him, so moved across a little bit more into Odems and then bang into the wall and race over. But you could sort of see it coming. Those two were duking it out so hard and giving that so little space that an accident was really, really likely, I think, either way. And then obviously once Odems managed to catch up from their battling and get involved as well, it didn't work out well for him. But obviously it benefited Odems massively. He was able to inherit the positions.
Yeah, definitely. And the race really got spicy late on when we had our first official safety car that we talked about. If we go and find it on the stream right near the end of the race, I was even wondering how long would it stay out for. but it did come in with 2 laps of racing to go, and
Yeah.
Julian, again, he did what he had to do, didn't he? He absolutely nailed it.
Yeah, nailed it straight away, and pulled such a lead in those last 2 laps as well. I think it's up to 4 or 5 seconds or whatever it was by the end. He just seemed to have a huge pace advantage over the rest of the field and got an absolutely great launch from the safety car restart. But I believe it was Malloy was it who came off worse from that restart.
Yeah, that was an interesting one because I've seen VSR Jack's footage, Josh's footage, and Malloy's. From Malloy's, obviously, it just looks like he gets touched from the rear, but on Josh's footage, he doesn't touch him at all. So it could just be some desync or lag or something, but that's 3 races in a row. Malloy's been in a good position, and something's happened to have those points taken
Yeah.
away from him.
Yeah, definitely. You've got to say he's settled into the league well and putting on some really good performances. Obviously got a good pace, being in 4th at the restart. He could have got anything from that. But as you say, it looked like contact at the time from what we could see. But obviously, as you say, from Josh's footage, there wasn't any. So it must have been a little bit of desync or whatever. And just so unfortunate for him. And obviously because of the safety car as well, all the field bunched up behind him. What would have probably lost him only 5 seconds of race time ended up costing him quite a few positions. I think he rejoined in 10th.
Interestingly, Louis obviously put those ultra soft tyres on, started in 8th at the restart, I believe, made his way all the way onto the podium from there. What a clever decision that was after another poor qualifying from Louis.
Yeah, he's perhaps disappointed, himself. I'm sure he has in qualifying, just hasn't quite delivered so far. But that was an inspired move, putting on the ultra softs. He could just absolutely push for those final 2 laps, and you could just see the grip difference from those guys on the mediums around him was just night and day. But he absolutely maximised it as well, and made up all those positions in the last couple of laps. So fantastic drive. I bet he was absolutely buzzing after that.
Yeah, definitely. And as we're watching now on to lap 28, Black Mamba again in the top 5 after qualifying further down. He really likes that strategy of qualifying outside the top 10 and making his way through the field and getting some good points. He finished in 5th eventually from 11th on the grid.
Yeah, he seems to always just work his way forward and get a good finishing position out of it. If he could only start a little bit higher up the grid, perhaps it would, he could finish even higher. But I guess that it does give him the good tyre strategy as well. So another good drive from him, and he's picking up the points as well, and that'll be all good for him in the championship fight.
Good day for Red Bull. Obviously, Odem's coming home in 2nd from 7th on the grid. We have to mention him. So let's talk about his performance. Obviously, he went 3 wide with those with Blizzard and Suzea, which we talked about earlier. He was able to continue on from that without any damage, and just kind of held the position from there.
Yeah, he did. He was sort of, you have to say, he didn't have the pace of the front 2. He did fall away, but he did, absolutely benefited from that and made the move stick to get into P2 and held on. It was a good drive from him. I think he was really delighted with the 2nd place. He deserved the result, good result. And he can move forward from there as well. And it all helps him in the championship. It was a good drive. And he'll be delighted, I think, to pick up the 2nd. I think he didn't deserve 2nd on pace, but you take what you get, you drive and keep clean, and that's the reward.
Bookster, his best result in the Prestige tier since he's moved up. Obviously, he's raced in the Podium, the Pinnacle, and now the Prestige tier. 7th from 10th on the grid. What did you make of his day? Kept out of trouble, and if he's able to do that, he will be able to constantly score these points finishes.
Yeah, he will. He's another good result. I think he was happy with that as well. And like you say, keeping out of trouble is so important. You can have all the pace in the world, but if you keep getting involved in incidents, then it means nothing really. As we see with Blizzard finishing outside the points, I think in the end. So good drive from Bookster and settling in really, really well.
And shout out to Scopefielder as well, who on his first race in the league joined to replace BSAS, took points for the Williams team. So a good overall performance from him in his first race. And generally the Prestige tier again putting on an amazing show. The commentators were again just when they finished it exhausted. Because when you just got constant action and it's in different parts of the grid as well, it's so hard to keep up with it. With only having one view, you almost want to have 4 TV screens in front of you. But yeah, the Prestige tier definitely putting on a good show, showing why they are the top tier.
Yeah, they are. They're absolutely no inches given, is there? They race super hard all the way from from for the win, or you're battling for the just 10th and the last point. Absolutely on the limit, everybody. And it's easy to forget just how quick these guys are. We know, I know from going up against Odems pre-season and what have you, just how quick they are. And you, once you see them on circuit, you just have to admire the skill of these boys racing so close wheel to wheel and just exceptionally quick.
They definitely are. All right, Jono, that is all 3 races covered, and that was round 3 in China. We move on to Baku next time out this Friday on its way. Fond memories for you, Jono, Baku? You've won there in your only race you've participated in, I believe.
Yeah, I like Baku. It's it's sort of not the best race circuit in the world, I don't think, but obviously I've got that epic straight where you get some great overtaking maneuvers, and there's a few overtaking spots through the lap, and obviously some really, really tricky sections like the castle section as well that very, very difficult to take that right every single lap. You've got to concentrate from start to finish. I think we will see some good battles, but I think we'll definitely see some drivers losing some front wings and probably a few DNFs as well.
All right, Jono, a driver yourself, champion yourself, you've never lost at a straight circuit at F1 TS Hub, so what advice would you give to everyone when taking on a track like Baku where one lapse in concentration and it's all over?
Yeah, I think that's what it is all about. Always about concentrating, but also just know your limits. I think it's really important to know your limit. If somebody's quicker than you and gets by, and you just think I can't match that pace, just let them go, because if you keep it clean and get to the finish with your wing intact, you will pick up a good result. And I think just not overdriving the car is absolutely crucial in making it through in one piece.
Awesome. So we'll ask if anyone has any final questions for us, but Jonas wants some predictions for round 4 in Baku, which is probably one of the hardest races to predict just because anything can happen. We know there are probably going to be safety cars, drama, incidents. Get a lot of sleep this week, Jono, because the steward's office will probably be a busy one. But predictions for the podium, pinnacle, and prestige tier, please.
I'm going to go with Dainster in the podium tier because it was a pretty dominant victory, I have to say, and drove excellently. So it's hard to look past him, I think, for Baku as well. So we'll go with him. And I think I'll go for Matt in the other Ferrari in China. He's looked good all season, been going toe-to-toe with Weeflo and his teammate. So I think it's time that he picked up a victory. And I'm going to go for Odems, in the prestige tier. I think that second place will give him confidence. We know how quick he can be over a lap, and I've just got a feeling he'll put it somewhere near the front of the grid, and he'll keep his nose clean, and he'll pick up the victory.
Well, Danestar, happy with your prediction. I'm sure he'll be hoping it comes true. How much did Odems pay you to say that live on stream?
Yeah, we'll keep that between ourselves, but he promises me that the check's in the post.
Awesome. All right, my predictions. First of all, let's talk about when's Jamie going to get a podium, because he's got the pace. He just needs to not have an incident either caused by himself, like the jump start, or somebody else. If he can have a clean race, he definitely has the pace to get on that podium, and which he wants so much.
Yeah, I think Jamie's going to get a win, I think. I think his first podium will be a win. It's just waiting that long to get on the podium. It's surely all going to come at once, and it's got to work out right for him at some point. So I think, the win's on the card. So, he's definitely going to be fighting there or thereabouts, I think, at Baku. Maybe if not for the win, then he'll be following Dainster closely.
Right, my prediction for the races on Friday, the winners, I'm going to go with Nick. Obviously finished on the podium on Friday in China. And yeah, I think he's going to win in Baku. For the pinnacle tier, I've gone with Reflow for the last 3 weeks. Got it right 2 out of 3. I think that this week your winner could be. I think you're right, Jono. I think it could be Matt's turn to take the victory Qualifying will be very important. Particularly, it could be a one-stop race. So yeah, I'd have to go with Matt. And for the prestige tier, this race is going to be crazy. If it's crazy around tracks that are wide and things like that, then honestly, it could be anyone's. I think it's going to be MLA's turn to take the checkered flag. So those are my predictions. Jono, I don't know if you caught any of the esports race yesterday, but White Fountain wants to know of our thoughts on it. I'll start with myself. Yeah, it was a good race. I didn't get to watch it live, unfortunately, but I did catch up with it. The team did really well. We finished third out of the teams that took place, and we were very close to finishing second as well. VSR, who won, quite frankly dominated it. But yeah, we were very close to finishing second, and we were quite unlucky. I spoke to drivers afterwards. Kian obviously made a mistake in qualifying. He was on pole. He made a mistake as he tried to come back to track. He got in the way of a car on a fast lap, and they collided. So he got a 10 place grid penalty. So that wasn't ideal. We pre-planned a strategy that Kian would start on the ultra softs and do a 2-stop, and manage the pace hopefully at the front. And the two, Reflow and MLA, would both start on the softer compound, the middle compound tyre, and they'd be able to go longer into the race and switch on to the mediums. Unfortunately, it meant after Kian's penalty, we started 9th, 10th, and 11th, which is exactly what we didn't want to do, is start together. So yeah, Kian was involved in an incident in the opening laps. Reflow for the first stint had wing damage, and Mark had no DRS as well for the opening stint as well, so that was fixed at his pit stop. So yeah, there were a number of things that contributed to not being able to achieve our potential. Some obviously self-inflicted, and some things out of our control. But overall, I think we put on a good show. We saw a lot of MLA and Reflow on stream. They were battling, and to be fair, the race was actually really good, really entertaining. I enjoyed watching it back. And yeah, I think it's something for the team to build upon. Obviously it's our first event, so we'll learn from it. We'll take the positives away, look at what we can do differently, and we'll come to the next event even stronger.
Yeah, I think you summed it up pretty well. I've only seen little bits of it, but I obviously know the result, and I think third, pretty respectable result, first time out for the team. Obviously, as you say, Kian especially just didn't quite go as he would have planned. He obviously had really good pace and didn't quite go as he'd have wanted. But all the guys put on a decent performance, picked up some decent points, and certainly a lot to build on for the future for sure.
Alrighty, last question is thoughts on the Verstappen Ocon incident. Jono hasn't seen it. He doesn't know the result. Well, he knows who won, but he hasn't seen it, so we won't spoil it for him. But I'm sure, Jono, you will enjoy it when you see it. Alright guys, that's the wrap. Thank you very much for tuning in to another episode of the Late Night Talk Show. Next week we are going to get some drivers in, so we're going to wait until the races, and we're going to pick drivers who particularly had a good race or had a scrappy race or involved in a major incident that we want to get their thoughts on. Perhaps even if we have two drivers that Jono collide together, it'd be interesting to have them both in the talk show and get their thoughts on it.
Try and recreate our version of Verstappen and Ocon. We'll pick two drivers and let them duke it out in the chat.
Yeah, obviously we'll set it to 18 only next week, just in case they can't hold their tongues. No, but we're going to get some drivers in. So if you are interested, we might be messaging you next Friday after the races. So yeah, guys, thank you very much for tuning in. Enjoy the rest of your Sunday evening. Look forward to the next race week. Of course, you've got Stewards results and Driver of the Day results on Tuesday, the official media day for Baku on Thursday, and then, of course, it's race night on Friday. Thanks for watching, guys, and I will speak to you soon.